Thanks. Thank you for the gifts and introduction. I was here not too long ago. I started SAC in 2006, and my first Design 1 studio was right here. And I was here in night classes. I was working full time. I had no idea what I wanted to do in the future, so I figured, hey, I don't have to take any more math. Let me try architecture, try to get this, see how it is, and I loved it. And I went through it as fast as I could. 2007, I transferred to tech. It was kind of nice. It's kind of far, about 7 hours, but it was good to get away too. It's nice to kind of branch out and look at new things. Went through that program, finished my bachelor's degree in 2008, and then got my master's in 2010. And came back here in the worst economic climate in the past 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, you were hurrying.
Yeah, I was hurrying for the economy to crash, so I couldn't find a job. But yeah, now I have a job here in San Antonio. The way I actually got the job was through a guy I was in SAC with, and he moved to California, and his boss needed someone else to fill in. So, keep in touch with friends, and that's it can work out. And my boss is also a SAC alumni, so it kind of works out. So I guess the main thing is the transition from here to any university. Going to tech, it was great because the advisors came here. They took all of our classes. I mean, we came in straight into third-year studio, and there was no issue. They were so willing to talk to us about classes they would accept. And in the future, here I'll talk about this. But things to kind of embrace from SAC is the work ethic. I mean, me and Craig Wiedemann and a couple other people, there's 4 of us that transferred from here to tech my year. And one thing we always talk about, and I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and we really missed the program here because it really developed our work ethic. And it's something you carry with you through your program. And it's something you have to remember. Because sometimes you might get a studio where it didn't require that much, but you put in that work ethic, going through the different iterations and the different idea generation, and it'll really pay off. You get some really good stuff out of it. Some really good stuff to put into your portfolio and to show to potential employers in the future. And the schools, if you want to go somewhere else for grad school. So this isn't studio work from tech. This is the Fort Worth Modern Museum. And some good things that tech does is, my first studio tech, we all took a trip to Dallas and Fort Worth to look at some really good architecture there. This is one of them. This is the Fort Worth Modern Museum. This is the backside. This side you don't see from the street. Right across the street is the Kimball Art Museum that some of y'all might know from President Studies or any kind of work you've done. Okay, so this is kind of our studio environment. It's not so much different than the ones here. I mean, in fact, it's almost just like this room, but a little bigger. Some things you might notice from your Design 3 or any of your studios is, we're not working on the high drafting tables. I was talking to Gilbert recently, and he was saying that that's something he really missed. He's someone who just transferred to tech. This is his first semester. He said he misses the incline drafting tables. But that's one of the transitioning things you'll have to do when you go to a different school is, you're going to have to transition to a new work environment, new people, new media. So I'm just going to kind of show you some pictures of our studio environment, and this is one of our reviews, actually for, I think that was my first graduate studio. So, each class is different. And the thing you have to keep in mind is when you're transferring, if you want to go to tech, and that's what I'm going to talk about because that's what I know, you need to get to know the program, get to know the people, the advisors. Let me get to that. Pretty nice. It's a lottery system. So you don't go into registration and sign up to the professor you want straight off the bat. They give you a list of about 8 professors, and you list them all from number 1 to number 10. So it's the way it works out. So what I would do before I went is I researched these guys as much as I possibly could. I went on to their faculty website. I researched their their professional work, and that's just something you should keep in mind if you're in that situation where the lottery system is something that they do. And I know a few other schools do that. so I'm not exactly sure how popular it is. But Texas Tech website, great utility, great place to go look. So has anyone ever here been to Lubbock at all? Okay, so it's about a 7-hour drive if you go the speed limit. There's nothing really there on the way there. You'll drive through a lot of.
That's a good photo.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Texas Tech website, they have this cool. It's a wiki site, so students can go put in pictures from their studio. So you see at the bottom the name and the studio it was that the work is in. This is all freshman work right here. You're seeing this cup stuff. That was my last year there. So yeah, Lubbock. It's a small town. Love the weather because anything can happen every day. We had tornado warnings and hailstorms, and this was like April last year, I think. So I like the excitement. Maybe it's not for everybody. So I know one thing that was stressed to me when I was at SAC was to save all my syllabi. Kind of every class you take, save your syllabus because you might need it in the future. And one situation where that worked out was I was at Tech, and they wanted us to take an undergraduate class called a media elective, which was any one of like 8 classes, which is watercolors, digital stuff, just these type of elective classes. So I took a couple of my syllabi from SAC, which was my graphic communications and graphics course, I think a couple of those. And I went to the administration and said, hey, I have these extra classes that weren't used in my transfer, can I get credit for this class? And they ended up agreeing to it and accepting it. So that's just one thing that I know y'all stressed to me when I was here, and I'm just trying to reiterate because it is kind of important. It can save you the extra tuition, the extra time. One thing that I became really good at was getting ahead of the game. So knowing what classes I had to take, one, not relying on my advisors. Because there's a lot of stuff that I've heard, people getting put in the wrong classes, coming up to graduation and realizing they're a class short. Get ahead of the game, know your degree program. So for example, go on here, Bachelor of Science. So if you transfer there, you'll be coming in right here, right to the 3rd year.
Now, you had everything accepted from your first 2 years?
Everything is accepted. And like I said, there was even a couple classes that there weren't just in room for, like graphics communication or my graphics class. And I turned in my syllabus and I turned in a couple of examples of my work, and I got credit for it's that first semester of 4th year, that media elective, I got credit for that. So one thing I wasn't exactly aware of when I transferred up there was, this program up here has been in transition, and it's kind of stops now. So they had accreditation review, which I'll talk about in a minute, last year. But see, at the end of the 3rd year, there's that thing that says urbanism. That's a required study abroad program they have. And they've gotten a couple of awards across the country for being a program that requires to study abroad. So what you do is they change the cities almost every year. A couple of professors will go to a different city like Paris, Chile, Nicaragua, Montreal. And you do a studio there for anywhere up to 6 weeks to 8 weeks, maybe a little longer in some places, it all depends. So you have to be aware of that when you transfer, because that's money you have to save up. And that's scholarships you have to start applying for. And financial aid you have to start applying for. So what's that?
Where did you go?
I didn't.
Oh, they've just.
When I was there, it was a transition thing. So it was study abroad or this thing called practicum. The practicum was internship plus studio in Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, or Houston. And I went to Houston and did my internship. The program is reserved for graduate students, and study abroad is for undergrad.
Started the 3rd year, did you feel like you were behind?
I felt like the things that SAC taught me the most were work ethic, and those are the things that we were really strong with. And I would talk to my professors and be like, okay, where are my weaknesses? Where can I get better? What are my strengths? And the hardest part was adjusting to going to Tech, having a studio, learn this program within the first 2 weeks, learn this software. And every professor is different. So this goes back to know your professors. Look them up, look up their past syllabus for the classes that you might take. A lot of those will tell you what programs they want you to use. So it might be Form Z, or Rhinoceros, or 3D Studio Max. I mean, it's all up to the professor. So we got there and said, okay, is it okay if we turn in hand-drawn stuff? And they said, no, we don't really want to see that. You know, this isn't just a studio about designing, this is a studio about learning the software. So that was part of our education as well. And one of the things you have to do is, if you see something like that and you're in that situation, you have to take the initiative yourself and go learn it. You know, you have to go learn the software that you think you might need to know in the future. So we go into this past summer, and that's a lottery too. There's no guarantee you're going to get your first choice. Everybody's first choice is going to be Berlin, France. You know, Berlin is an old one. So to keep that in mind.